Greetings, Kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our world of darkness. Today, we're going to start a brand new segment. This is going to be part entertainment value and part journal for me to return to from time to time to remind myself of what is going on in my current chronicle, Thicker Than Water. Thicker Than Water is set in Portland, Oregon, which is a Camarilla city, which is unevenly divided between several factions, the Camarilla and the Anarchs, but also some other factors. The Portland, Oregon in my stories resembles Portland, Oregon in the real world, except there are certain landmarks that don't exist in the real world, certain clubs, certain venues. But that being said, for the most part, if you know Portland, you could probably work your way around this setting. Our characters tonight are Tinia, Dawn, Sam, and Damien. These four Kindred are all neonates. Damien is a loyal member of the Ivory Tower. The other three are strong believers in the Anarch movement. I'm not going to go into detail on these characters because I want their backgrounds to unfold as time goes by. The story that you're about to hear has taken place over the course of 3 weeks thus far. Me realizing that this needs to be something that I record for everybody has unfortunately come a little bit late, but I believe that we can handle that without much of a problem. First, I would like to let everybody know that although Thicker Than Water is something that I personally am, that I've personally worked on for about a decade, the story that we are beginning with is an adaptation of the story Styx and Bones, located in Cults of the Blood Gods. Except instead of being held in Munich, Germany, it's being held in Portland, Oregon. The characters all received invitations to a meeting hosted by one Scott Duncern at the Portland Museum of Natural History. Scott Duncern is a well-known ghoul for Clan Giovanni. Upon arriving at the museum, they found they were in mixed company. Not really understanding why Scott would be hiring not only Anarchs, but also a neonate in the Camarilla, is something that has not been fully revealed to them as of yet. But, to be completely blunt, Scott believes hiring Kindred from opposing sex means that it's less likely that they will work against him behind his back, and the goals that the Giovanni have. Scott Duncern has gathered them all there tonight to offer them money to act as chauffeur and bodyguard to a visiting dignitary, a esteemed member of the family. They are to pick him up from the airport, take him to a location that he will be staying, and then basically stay on him during his entire stay. Given the money offered, all characters believe that it is a good opportunity for them and they take the job, not fully trusting their new employer. Scott Duncern has also arranged for them to be able to pick up cars for this specific job. Armored SUVs that they will be able to pick up at the Putinesca Brothers auto body shop. The first night went off without a hitch. They picked up their charge at the airport on time as designated. They were very surprised to find out that this Giovanni that was coming into town was a young Japanese businessman by the name of Hiromitsu Asano. But they played their role. They took him to his hotel, got him checked into the Benson Hotel in Portland, Oregon, and then showed him the sights around town, which he was very eager to go on that trip. The night ended as uneventfully as anything else, with them returning to the Benson Hotel, each being given a room on the same floor as Mr. Asano, and concluding the evening. As I said, not much has happened there. Now, that's when things get interesting, because we actually started following the Styx and Bones storyline located in Cults of the Blood Gods. Now, for those of you who have not read through it, Styx and Bones is a beautiful story which primarily focuses on Clan Hecata. The characters in this game, however, do not know anything about the Hecata, and they are still very surprised on the way things are going. Now, the introduction of Styx and Bones states that Styx and Bones is an exploration of the Hecata within the world of darkness, and the logical continuation of the Cults of the Blood Gods setting. The story centers on the Hecata as they exist in Munich, a Camarilla city that barely survived the Second Inquisition. As members of the Hecata, or as their trusted allies, the players will explore two cults in the world of darkness. They will unearth old ghosts, investigate new dangers, and struggle with the personal costs of kindred warfare. Now, it goes on to say that this is good for 4 to 6 players and 10 to 15 hours of gameplay. And so far, we have done 3 total nights of the storyline, and we've only just finished the first chapter. The opening scene, where I had them pick up Asano from the airport, is not a part of this. And I did find this story in particular incredibly easy to integrate into another city setting, because this centers on events that are happening all over the world, where the Hecata are coming together and having the quote-unquote family reunion. And you can get away with putting this in any city that you would like. Night 2 begins with the characters waking up in their hotel rooms, startled to hear a lot of noise happening in the suite. When they exit their rooms, they find out that Asano had an entourage arrive during the day while they slept. These are all family members, so these individuals wake up in a strange hotel just to find that they are surrounded by a very large group of Japanese men and women. However, things are going to plan. They all pile into their cars and they escort Asano and his entourage to an old, abandoned, dilapidated cathedral on the other side of town. This is a demolition project that has been put off for years in Portland. They shortly find out why. The reason why this church actually has not been completely torn down is the fact that it is the site of a Giovanni temple. I can actually just read here the prologue that's in the book, because we did this word for word. Moonlight pours the stained glass windows of the remodeled Gothic church, and in its basement the dead dine with family. Mother Anja Giovanni, a tall, rail-thin woman, stands at the head of the table. Her steel-gray hair and slight crow's feet at the edges of her pale eyes add sophistication to her elegant features. She holds her raised wine glass by the stem. Family, I wish to thank you all for joining us. Across this continent, the clan of death gathers. We meet to bury old grudges and embark on a new beginning. We are all Hecata now. We are all family. She inclines her head to the man sitting on the other end of the long banquet table reserved for local cult leadership and their honored guests. Hiromitsu Asano wears a sprig of honeysuckle pinned to the lapel of his tailored Italian suit. The sweet smell of the trumpet-shaped white flower permeates the room, layering a candy-like aroma over the coppery scent of blood. Thank you for this welcome. He raises his glass to Mother Anja in return. At smaller tables scattered around the basement, family clean glasses and drink to the Asano, who have joined the Hecata as the newest minor family. Those at the head table lift their glasses to the Asano patriarch as they offer quiet comments of welcome, along with their congratulations. Once the murmurs of the room taper off naturally, Mother Anja sits and flicks a sharp glance at the individual on her right. Asano-san, Mora, the Death Seer, rises to their feet. Striking cheekbones emphasize their delicate lips, and a receding chin as they speak. 5 centuries ago, Augustus and his brood systematically murdered the Cappadocians. Few of us survived, but all swore vengeance on the Giovanni usurpers. Your sire, Heinrich König, fell at my hands, as did many Giovanni. Their low voice braces at the spoken truth, but their broad-shouldered stature does not slink away from the responsibility. The time for vendettas and bloodletting is over. Let us heal. Let us understand and be understood in return. Please accept our condolences for your loss, and please accept our most sincere pledge to your continued well-being. Asano stands and bows slightly at the neck in response. I accept your apology. I, too, pledge myself to the well-being of our family. Then he moves from his chair to approach. Mora retrieves a gift from the folds of their black waterfall cardigan, and with both hands presents a cylinder wrapped in pastel blue silk to Asano. He refuses it, a customary 3 times. Each time, in response, the Death Seer insists. Finally, he accepts it, and in return, pulls from his pocket a small wooden box. He holds it out with both hands, offering it to Mora. This is but a trifle gift. It's Mora's turn to refuse, and they do 3 times, knowing they would eventually accept it. At the conclusion of the exchange, Mother Anja rings a small, high-pitched bell. The two return to their seats and await dinner. From the wings come a series of mortals dressed in white, ranging in size, shape, and age. Each carries a carafe of treated blood for the kindred and a portion of the first course. Small bones speared into slices of rare steak and lamb for the kind. After each serves a table, Mora prays aloud. I am the end and the beginning. Dead flesh may cover my bones, and my bones may encase an unbeating heart, yet I remain. Ghosts may follow in my wake, and in my wake may other ghosts soon join them. For I have chosen my path in famine, plague, and war, and I stand between the living and the dead. I am prepared, for I am Hecata. I am the beginning and the end. I remain. I remain. I remain. A chorus of voices answer in response. We remain. The still room comes to life as guests commence dining. Every course that follows is more decorative than the one before. On serving platters, each course makes for an elaborate morbid presentation. Flayed hands gripping rib bone prison bars. Hands actually made from vegetables. Blood coral toil garnishing prettily plated organs made from puffed rice and dumplings. And giant roasts complementing soups served in skulls. Each dish is as much an unspoken threat as it is a statement of culinary artistry. Cross the Hecata and be devoured. All indulge as they talk and reminisce well into the night. Once the dinner progresses into the more orgiastic than refined, Mother Anja approaches the table occupied by the coterie. That's where I'm going to stop there. It does go a little bit further into detail, but we have changed things since we're not set in Munich. Now, what I did was the players were invited to this dinner, and it proceeded pretty much exactly as is up to this point. They are not well-trusted members, but they are hired hands, and the Giovanni are not acting shy about it. This is where things get interesting, because I describe each of the tables that are set in this dining hall. In each dining hall, I went ahead and set a different bloodline of the Hecata. So, I did my best to describe where they see Scott sitting with several Dunsern, where I have the children of Tecnocticlan, the Bisinob family members, the descendants of the Baron, the Flesh Eaters, the Harbingers of Asya, the Familia Giovanni, the Criminal Pusinesca, the Gorgons. I tried my best to describe all the different aspects of what the Hecata truly are, and the different personalities that make up this strange, eclectic group. Now, while this is all going on, we had a very pleasant time with the descriptions. And eventually they are approached by Scott Dunsern, who has had a few drinks that night. I do find it very helpful to have an NPC who's there to deliver exposition for one reason or another. And where Scott is typically an arrogant yet tight-lipped individual, you get a few drinks in him and he's ready to tell you anything. I was able to explain exactly who the different families are by allowing Scott to spread the family gossip after a few glasses of wine at dinner, which the player characters willingly took advantage of. Scott's original intention for going over there was to let them know that Mother Anja actually wished to talk to them and had a business proposal for them as well, which she did. She did end up coming to them. After Scott's long-winded point-and-tell section of who everybody in the room was, which I threw some major NPCs in there, including Roger de Camden and other such famous members of Clan Giovanni, or the Cappadocians, or whoever else you want to mention. And I gave the player characters a good reason to feel uncomfortable, because I did describe those were members of the Sabbat until recently and things like that. I did give them some reasons to go, why are we here? And to feel nervous, but also gave them time to chat amongst themselves and to ask Scott whatever questions they might have. After a little while, Mother Anja does approach the table and Scott scurries off, doing what Scott does. And Mother Anja presents them with a business opportunity. Tomorrow night, the Asano family will be busy with some more private interactions with the rest of the greater Hecata. And she explains minorly what's going on in a more sober format than Scott was able to give. Basically letting them know that this was a ceremony of burying the hatchet of old grudges. She also lets them know that the hatchet is quite not buried yet, and that there are a couple of things that they might be able to help with. One of which being the fact that there will be an independent gangrel, an autarchist gangrel, coming into the city the next night, who will be hosting an auction for an item that did once belong to the Cappadocians, and they would like to get it back to them. That being a burial jar that was found in an archaeological dig in Augustus Giovanni's old haven in Venice, Italy. The other item that they might be able to help with is something that Mora, the Death Seer, blurts out. And that is that they are in need of a body. The way that they put it was they had found an individual who is young and fit and deserving of death. And they explained to them that they have located a hunter that needs to be dealt with, and that they could have use of his body. Mother Anja offers them a place to stay for the night if they are so inclined, and they will discuss it in the morning. End night 2. The end of night 2. Night 2 was literally just the prologue of the story. But we spent an entire game session with them just getting exposition on what was going on with the formation of the Hecata and the family reunion. Not fully understanding what exactly is going on, but understanding that things in the world of darkness are changing for the Giovanni. Night 3, we continue our story. We get to chapter 1, Body of Lies. Now, this was last night's session, and this was probably one of the most amazing sessions that I've led with some of these players. One of my favorite nights in gaming. I will have to say it's the inspiration for why I'm sitting here right now talking about this. Session 3 of this story, the characters wake up in the rooms that they were staying in at the Gothic cathedral owned by the Giovanni, and we start on Body of Lies, Chapter 1 of Styx and Bones. This was such a fun night because I was able to let I gave them a situation and they handled it as they saw fit. When they woke up, they were able to find their ways to a sitting room where Mother Anja was casually reading and drinking out of a goblet, while Mora, the Death Seer, was frantically going through books in this library, setting them all up on the table with pages open, trying to figure out what order of operation she was going to be working in. The characters approach Anja, who gives them a folder with a couple of pieces of paper in it. The first is a invitation on parchment, very fancily made. The invitation reads, "You're cordially invited to a private auction held in the industrial park in South Franklin." It's not Franklin here. I used Franklin as an industrial park section of Portland, so I did change the name on this. You are cordially invited to a private auction held in the industrial park at 10 p.m. My agents will be waiting to escort you to and from the warehouse. Up for auction is a burial jar of ancient origin, recently found during an archaeological dig in Venice. Its provenance has been accurately dated to the 3rd century, and it was once possessed by Augustus Giovanni. According to documents found on site, he used the jar to call upon those dearly departed. No violence will be permitted during the auction. Any found to be using their particular gifts in order to secure said item will be dealt with harshly. Please bring with you your patience, an open wallet, and a worthy temperament. Sincerely, Matthew Castle. At this point, I openly describe the disgust that Anja Giovanni has for Matthew Castle, implying that they have dealings in the past. That's nowhere noted in this. I just found that it would be good to have a reason why she or her representatives were not going herself. The other piece of paper is a dossier, which has information about a man named Gunther Hildebrandt, who is a supposed hunter. The details of it I'm not going to go on under, but the evaluation of Gunther says that Hildebrandt is an intellectual man who, after serving several tours in Afghanistan, attended the University of Bayreuth to earn a degree in political science. Afterward, he returned to Munich and joined the Leon Group, a left-wing think tank. He is a gifted hunter with 6 confirmed kills as a vampire hunter. The majority of those kills have been reserved for anarchs and members of the Hecata. As such, the Camarilla have privately allowed the hunter to operate in the area. Hildebrandt works late, leaving the Leon Group main office on Denmel Avenue between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. On weekends, he travels to the Zoom Wolf cocktail bar and spends several hours there before walking to his apartment located 8 blocks away. He usually leaves the bar between midnight and 1 a.m. Hildebrandt lives alone, but does on occasion invite people he finds at Zoom Wolf. Special notes: we require the body of Hildebrandt intact, remove no limbs, and leave his face unmarred. So she is asking them to go to an auction to purchase something. She is also saying that she will put up one major boon, even though she does not care for the boon system herself, to the purchase of the urn. Anything else that the characters put forth will be compensated for. The other, which Mora the Death Seer specifically is encouraging is the death of this hunter. So, who, again, some more information was doctored on this to make it so that the story wasn't taking place in Munich, Germany. Basically, what I said was that this man has a suite, a long-standing suite, at the Benson Hotel, the same place that they were staying. Which makes them nervous because it's already been established that there is an Elysium in this place as well. And with the way that things are going, it is the 4th floor, Hildebrandt is staying in a suite. The 5th floor is where Asano has rented out the entire floor for he and his entourage. And the floor above that, the 6th floor, is the Camarilla Elysium. So they're already feeling rather nervous about the fact that they are working on Camarilla territory while they are doing this. The night continued very, very interestingly, as they argued exactly how they were going to do things, whether or not they should all go to the auction and go after Hildebrandt later, if they should send 1 or 2 people to do a recon mission on Hildebrandt, how many people actually needed to go to the auction. I kind of expected my group to split up at this point. There were 2 people who were highly interested in going to the auction. There were 2 people highly interested in killing the hunter. But Tinia, being a more logical sort, decided that it was probably a good idea for all of them to be on the hunter at once. The idea that this person has 6 confirmed kills was enough to make her go, maybe it's a good idea if all 4 of us go, and maybe go later when he's drunk at the Zoom Wolf cocktail bar. Now, just to let you know, Zoom Wolf is a very popular, very famous bar in Munich, Germany. Now, in the city that I live in, we had I think it closed down to do COVID complications, but we had a bar known as the United Cafe. The United Cafe was a place where you could go. It was a very British-styled cuisine and decor. And the original intention was for there to be a live feed of what was going on at the United Cafe in England, while there was a live feed coming over from America, and you were supposed to be able to interact through the flat screen TVs on the walls with the people. However, I guess they didn't consider the fact that time zone changes, so the hours didn't really work. And that part was scrapped. But the idea is that the bar has a sister bar in the UK. That being said, I had decided to make Zoom Wolf the same thing in Portland, Oregon, where there was a sister bar in Germany and in Portland. So the characters all go to the auction together. They go to the rendezvous point, they're escorted there, and when they arrive, it's an open area with a single table with chairs around it, harsh fluorescent lighting. The individuals who are there, aside from a few small groups of ghouls who are there as representatives, the NPCs chosen were there to cause a little bit of a stirring of conflict for the player characters. There was the quote-unquote Anarch Baron, who is Tinia's sire, Colin Griffin. He's not really the Anarch Baron, but for some reason over time, his respect and authority, everybody just started thinking that he was the Baron, and regardless of how much he denies the fact that he's the Baron, they do have a tendency to just refer to him as such. He knows who the Baron is, but due to the fact that the Camarilla has outright declared war on the Anarch faction, he's keeping his head down. So he's here for the auction. Anna Roma, who is our very eccentric Toreador harpy for the city, is there, who is going to cause more problems for Damien than anybody because he's supposed to be a staunch Camarilla supporter, and now he's working with the Anarchs, and that's going to cause for a nice bit of gossip. Then there's also Christian, who works for Hesha. Hesha, the Ministry member of Fame. I'm using him as a resident of the city, and he's very much connected to Sam and Dawn. But now Dawn and Sam have to wonder, are they bidding on something that Hesha is trying to get a hold of? Which, if Christian is there, yes, obviously. So how is that going to turn around and bite them? The other member who is there is Alexander Thorn. Alexander Thorn is a Ventru who is also the Persis for the Cult of Mithras. So basically a knight. He's a high-ranking member in the Cult of Mithras, and he also has interest in getting this burial jar. As they all start to get to the point where there's conversation happening with the group and uncomfort with the NPCs, the lights dim and then come back on, signifying that there's going to be signifying that the auction's about to start. Matthew Castle, this weaselly little gangrel, comes out and starts the auction, and we actually had a bidding war in game, which was so much fun. I followed the outline pretty strictly of what happens in here. It says that the one of the NPCs will end their bid with 2 major boons and monies equal to 2 dots in resources. Another one will bid 3 major boons, 2 minor boons, and cash equivalent to 3 dots in resources. And then finally, the Cult of Mithras member will end with 4 major boons, 1 minor boon, and 3 dots worth of resources. And everything was going great, but they were actually competing pretty heatedly with the player characters, who ended theirs off with 5 major boons, which I could have pushed a little bit harder, but I really felt that one of my players, the player of Dawn, who doesn't typically have an easy time getting into game. She doesn't have an easy time putting herself into it, had completely lost herself in her character and had taken over this auction situation, and she is the one who designated 5 major boons. And keep in mind that Mother Anja only said that she would be able to give 1 boon out, but the bidding started off at 2. So they took the initiative and did it, and now Dawn owes Matthew Castle 5 boons. They have a little bit of a talk with Thorn, who tries to see if he can at least borrow it at some point, because he has want of it. Most of the NPCs just leave with the knowledge of what happened there that night to bite the players in the ass later. After the auction, the coterie pile into their cars and take the urn directly to the Giovanni temple, which I was impressed with. I thought that they were going to end up carrying the jar with them, which could have left me open to do some pretty shady shit. But foresight, they took it directly back, where Mora the Deathseer snatched it up and ran off with it. When questioned about Hildebrandt, they just said that they were going right now. They ended up getting to the Zoom Wolf cocktail bar at around 11:45, close to midnight, and finding him and realizing that they did not have a photo of the man. They were just going off of physical description that was on the dozer. They were able, through process of elimination, of deciding how old he was, what kind of physical stress he could be under from serving in tours in Afghanistan, being a native German. they were able to pinpoint who exactly he was through deduction, which I was very impressed with. So, taking a couple minutes to actually locate who their target was, Dawn and Tinia came up with a plan where Sam and Damien would stay out in the car and monitor what was going on from outside, and they would seduce him and basically just kill him and throw him in the car and leave. But they were trying to do it without being caught. They were trying to do it as stealthy as possible. So while they're there, Tinia is running point and sitting at the bar and just keeping an eye out for everything as Dawn wanders over and starts to just blatantly seduce this guy. He offers to buy her a drink, which she accepts, and before anything comes out, she asks if he would like to go somewhere else. He's all for this idea. And this is where things went hilarious. I don't want to go into great detail because it didn't work, unfortunately. But Dawn has access to certain perspective-altering powers. Unfortunately, it did not work. Her original intent was to walk him into an alley and make him believe that he was going somewhere else. I wish this would have worked out because it would have confused everybody, and it would have made me very happy. Dawn pushes Hildebrandt against the wall. They start making out furiously, and she decides that she's going to just go ahead and drain him right there as discreetly as possible by being the most overt person she possibly can be. And she starts to travel down. And I mean, just to be completely blunt about it, she decides that she's going to blowjob him to death. I guess we'll put it that way. They're in the middle of a dirty alley. She actually has to win a social test. She actually had to win a social challenge against him to try to get him to be okay with the idea. Which was not hard with how much alcohol he had in his system already. There's homeless people watching. Tinia's watching out the alley entrance to make sure that nobody comes through. And she does what she has intended to do. He falls down into the trash, dead. And then they carry him out of the alley and throw him in the back of the car, Weekend at Bernie's style, to make it look like he was just had too much to drink, and drive him to where he's going. Now, while this is happening, any security footage and stuff is being hacked into by Sam, who's a little bit of a tech whiz, who basically makes it so that the security footage for that area has been corrupted. Now, that being said, he found it a little bit easier than you would think. As Sam hacked into the computer footage, he did find it a little easier than he expected it to be, as if something was helping him on the inside. Now, Sam has quite a bit of hacking talent, but this one felt just given to him, and I will leave that off there. They drive the body of Hildebrandt back to the Giovanni temple, where he is retrieved by several ghouls and taken into the house. Mother Anja then asks the characters, since they have been so involved in everything thus far, she would like them to participate in the ritual that they have planned. Mora has already told the characters exactly what they plan on doing. There is an elder who was taken from them that they plan on taking the spirit from the Shadowlands and placing into the body itself, resurrecting a lost elder at this point. And not that it means anything to the characters, I will let you guys know that it is Constantia, the child of Japheth, child of Cappadocius. So I allowed the characters with a little bit more time to rest, relax, and refresh themselves before the ritual. And then as they all convene in the ritual chamber, the characters descend once again into the basement. Staff have removed the extra tables from the dinner, but The empty head table remains. Massive carved wooden valves fold like French doors to reveal an inner sanctuary beyond the space used for the dining hall. The Hekata Sanctuary is a large marble room with circular pool. Dimly lit by candle, the water appears black. The floor, walls, and ceiling glow bronze. The pungent smell of myrrh, mugwort, and wormwood wafts from braziers. Mother Anja and Mora stand next to the pool, waiting for the coterie. Mora, skin covered in a thin film of dirt, holding the Venetian jar in their hands, instructs the characters to stand in a circle. The Deathseer removes the lid before biting into their wrists, allowing the blood to flow freely into the jar. They instruct the coterie to do the same. After all the characters have bled, the Deathseer begins the ceremony. Mother Anja, Mora, and the coterie divest themselves of the bulk of their clothing before picking up the corpse of Gunther Hildebrand and stepping into the pool. The body floats on their fingertips as they encircle it. I am the end and the beginning. Mora rises the Venetian jar towards a sigil inscribed on a ceiling dome above. We reach beyond the veil. We cast out our net into the seas of the underworld. We plead with the Tempest to deliver unto us one who is lost. We ask for Constantia, priestess of bones, the child of Japheth. We demand her freedom. We demand her memory. We are Hekata. We are the beginning and the end. We remain. We remain. We remain. Mother Anja, standing opposite of Mora, looks to the coterie to provide the chorus response with her. We remain. Mora moves with alacrity, reaching high into the air and snatching something invisible before slamming the flat of their hand onto Hildebrand's chest above his heart. Then, they take the Venetian jar and pour the collection of blood down the cadaver's throat. A disembodied shriek starts soft, but grows louder and louder until the cry is deafening. The candles burn more brightly, and the body reels, erupting in spasms and a deep, garbled gasp. Latching onto the characters, the body of Hildebrand awakens. And while his face might be that of a man, the strength of his grip is an elder's. The sanctuary goes silent. Mother Anja rings a handbell, and on command 3 nude mortals enter the pool. Like a freshly embraced neonate, Constantia descends on the trio with violent abandon. Once satiated, the priestess of bones collapse into slumber. While Mora attends to Constantia, Mother Anja Giovanni pulls the coterie aside to thank them for their efforts. She grants each of them a minor boon and free access to the Hekata Temple for as long as they remain in the city. The characters can then rest for the evening, having accomplished something rare and wonderful for the Clan of Death. Now, that is where this leaves off. I do want to go into more detail on what happened on our side, though. The characters were all too happy to help with the ritual, which was a lot of fun because they were more interested in what was going to happen. They wanted to be there. They were asked to attend. And when they got there, and I started reading through the ritual, I have characters who are not 100% occult-minded. Dawn has a history of the New Age movement in her characters, so she was having fun. She was digging the whole process. Sam, on the other hand, was just interested because this was fun. I really picture Sam as being a Dungeons and Dragons player who just got into selling meth. Tinny, on the other hand, was nervous, and you could tell. And Damien was interested due to the fact that he is a Lasombra, and seeing other uses of Oblivion than what he's used to caught his attention. And yes, the only character that I have really announced what clan they are is our dear Damien. I do want to point out, though, that Damien is the son of a long-standing Camarilla member. He was never Sabbat. He's not a convert. He's not a convert. He was a legitimate La Sombra anti-tribu prior to everything that was happening. Now, everything went as I said by the book up to this point. The characters dressed, freshened up, and met with Mother Anja to discuss payment after this. It says in the book that Mother Anja offered them all one minor boon, and I just didn't feel like that was enough. Mother Anja seems to be, at least the way that I am portraying her, trying to get them to become almost like honorary members of the Hecata, in a way. There's no doubt in my mind, and there really shouldn't be any doubt in my players' minds, that they are being used by Mother Anja, but she's at least putting off a sense of what is going on and why they're doing it, to her knowledge. Now, that being said, she did give them more during the haggling process of deciding what the prices were going to be for this, for all the work that they've done for the Hecata thus far. Anja gave them more exposition, explained exactly why the family reunion or this event was happening with the Hecata. That without giving too many details, she basically said that 500 years ago the Giovanni turned against their clan, and they're trying to achieve forgiveness. They're trying to make it up to them, and resurrecting one of their elders who could possibly give them more knowledge that they'd lost because of their foolishness comes up, discussing the payments on what's going on. Major payment was completely wrapped around the actions that Dawn took. Dawn, who's working with Hesha, explained the great expenditure that she provided to get the jar, not to mention the accompaniment of the ritual itself and the obtaining of Hildebrand. And although Mother Anja is not 100% happy with the fact that 5 boons were offered, especially since she blatantly does not like the system of boons herself, she finds them too vague and messy. She will pay Matthew Castle 1 major boon, as she promised. And due to the fact that boons are transferable from kindred to kindred, she will explain to Matthew that one of the 5 boons offered will be paid by her herself. Now, the 4 other major boons, the compensation for the 4 other major boons and everything else that is going on with the night, not counting the original money offered for the escort mission for Asano, or for the protection mission of Asano, Dawn is going to receive 4 years, 1 year per major boon of tutelage by the Hecata. That means that Dawn has the ability to learn necromancy, to learn oblivion from the Hecata. This does matter a lot to Dawn because of other things that are going on with her character right now, which we will get into at a later date. But she believes that she needs to learn oblivion. Now, the reason that I've chosen to do this is because this puts this in the player's hands. Yes, she is open to learn something that she is not typically allowed to learn. And yeah, 4 years is a long time, but not in Vampire, if you really think about it. Yes, your chronicle might not go that long, but to vampires, you have to not think like you have to step outside of the mortality of a human, and understand that these vampires are ready to live for centuries, if not forever. So she's offering her a very small amount of time for her to learn as much as she can. If Dawn's character decides to invest all the time she can into Oblivion and Oblivion ceremonies, she will have to pay out-of-character costs, but she does have access to all of these things. I'm going to let her hold up that end of the bargain on that one. She is owed major boons, and basically she has a year's worth of study for each of those. So we will see exactly what Dawn can learn in that amount of time. Tinia, on the other hand, doesn't exactly know what she wants, and her payment will be negotiated at a later date. Damien has a smaller request. Since he's a La Sombra, he already practices Oblivion. Given his role that he played tonight and everything that he did, he has access to being taught level 1 Oblivion ceremony. And I do understand that Oblivion for the La Sombra and Oblivion through the Hecata are two different things. They really should not be able to cross over. But I don't see why he can't learn one ceremony. So Damien will be playing out of clan costs for those, but he has the ability to learn either the Gift of False Life, which it is the ability to create a zombie servant who can do a minor task, or Summon Spirit, which is exactly as it sounds. You could summon a spirit up from the underworld, which, for the time being, that is what he says he's interested in learning. So Damien very might well have a Wraith Retainer after a little while. I don't see that getting too far out of hand. Now, as for Sam, he's not very interested in any of that stuff, and he's got his own challenges that he's working on right now, but he's a very tech-minded individual. So his player decided that he was going to look through the Cult of the Blood Gods thing to see if there was anything specifically that the Hecata can do that other people can't, that might be able to help him. And he chose the Bankers of Duncern lore sheet, Money Enhances, the 3-point. And we haven't done the Duncern lore sheet yet in Metaplot Monday. We'll get around to it. But Money Enhances says, you always have access to the best that money can buy. Having access to quality products not only acts as a status symbol, it also makes everything a little easier. While making a roll in which you can use your own equipment, you get a bonus die to the roll. So what he's decided as payment is he wants the Duncerns to use that to buy him a top-of-the-line computer system. That is freaking genius. What I decided to do for him is write down on his character sheet, Giovanni Boone, Money Enhances. So the characters all have access to things they typically would not have, and I do not think that it's going to cause that much of a problem, but it is definitely going to do things for the city. That is where we're leaving off right now, and I cannot wait to see what happens in Chapter 2, Grave Digging. If you are interested in what I'm talking about here and want to continue listening to the plotline, please give a like, give a comment on what you think. I'd love critiques on my plot lines on what I'm doing. Obviously, I'm not doing one directly from myself, but sometimes running out of a supplement's just fun. But yeah, please like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. If you know anybody who wants inspiration for plot lines to run, share, that kind of thing. And I will see you next time in Our World of Darkness, where we will continue on with this story. Thank you. Good evening.